Leonardo DiCaprio fought a bear and he won an Oscar for it. My man Will Smith fights a crocodile in this movie, and I wonder what he will get for it, especially now that he had an incident at the Oscars. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and in this video I want to talk about Emancipation. Emancipation is Will Smith's latest film, and it is directed by Antoine Fuqua. Antoine Fuqua was the one that directed movies like Training Day, The Equalizer, Southpaw. Like, those movies were some of my, don't let me say some of my favorite, but those movies, I really enjoyed those movies. And when I saw Antoine Fuqua was the director of this, I was excited for it. The movie is basically about a man that finds out slavery has been abolished in some parts of the country and decides he's going to try and run to those places, try and run away to the places where freedom, like where they've been granted freedom, and he just follows the experience and what he sees or what he goes through trying to find or trying to fight for his freedom. And before I go too far, I need to talk about Will Smith's performance in this movie, because Will Smith's performance is what carries this movie. Not that it is the only factor that drives the movie, but it is the force that, like, it is the main force behind the movie. And I have to say, Will Smith's performance was phenomenal. He didn't have much lines. He had some lines, yes, but he didn't have much lines. Most of the time, it was just acting physically. And those his performances, feel like those past physical performance, they always get me. I'm a fan of physical performances. I love when actors act without saying words. And Will Smith's performance here was amazing. Like, he did some really good stuff in this movie. And like, I'm glad this movie still came out after the incident at the Oscars, because they have just deprived us of seeing a master of his crafts flexing his muscles and showing us why he's a master of his craft. On the surface, this movie feels like a movie about slavery, but it's not. It's a movie about freedom, a fight for freedom, and what a man would do, or how far he would go to survive and to get his freedom. And Will Smith just embodies this character. The movie is based on a real person, and Will Smith embodies this character, and he plays it so well. Like, he did justice to him. If I am like a member of the family of this man, like, I'll be proud of what Will Smith did in this movie, because he was able to show the gritty part of the character, and was able to still show the art, like the art, the character, the art of the character, and it made me like appreciate his performance in this movie. Like I said, Will Smith's performance was phenomenal in this movie. Like I said, on the surface, it feels like a movie about slavery, yes, because there are some elements of slavery in it, and you see there are still slaves in some part of the country, and some part of the country have been freed. But you still see slaves in it, but it is not really about slave. But I liked what they did about it. Like, we've seen a lot of slavery movies, but something they did about this movie that made it feel different to me is they humanized the slavers. And when I say they humanized the slavers, not that they sided with the slavers. No, they gave the slavers a backstory. Like, they made one of the slavers in particular, they made him talk about why he's a slave and why he behaves why he is, why he does what he does. And not that you side with him, but you understand where he's coming from. So I liked that they did that with it. It made the character feel like not just like a cartoony villain or cartoony, yes, they didn't make him feel like a cartoony villain. They made him feel like a real person that had real motivations, and just felt good to see it. Like, I don't think I've seen a slavery movie where they humanized the slavers. So I really liked seeing what they did with slavers in this movie. The color palette of the movie is something that really stood out to me, because they made it feel like when you see the color, it feels like black and white, but it's not black and white. There are some color in it, but when you look at it, like how I thought about it, it was very symbolic to me. It was like the color have drained out of the movie, like the color drained out of the picture, and it's like symbolically it made sense to me, because it feels like as a slave in that time, or as someone that is fighting for freedom, you'll be almost hopeless. So like the way they designed, the way they colored this, the color of the movie, it makes you feel like, okay, this is what these people are going through, and this is how they are feeling like. And it stuck out to me. I love the way I love what they did with the color. They could have made it very colorful, but they didn't. They just left a little bit color in it, so that you see that there was still, like, to me it felt like there is still hope, but at the same time they've almost drained the life out of the characters. And I really liked that color scheme for the movie. The environments where the movie is shot, it is like, I don't know if they shot it on the set or they shot it on a real location, but the set design like it is very messy and very chaotic, and it just also like wraps you around the feeling of that environment, or the feeling of what the people are going through, or what Will Smith's character is going through. It just feels very, very chaotic and messy, and at the same time very uneasy, and just like it fits perfectly with what is going on in the whole story. And I really liked that they did it, and they did not hold any punches back. Like, they showed it very, very raw, and I really appreciate that. And the music that they attached with it was just like, it fills you with so much dread. Like, you feel like some crazy things about to happen, or some very unpleasant thing is going to happen. That's what the music feels like. The music and the environment, the way they use the music and the environment is very, very good to me, because it fills you with dread. The music and the environment, yes, it fills you with dread, and I really appreciate that, because it makes you like, it sets your mind to what you are expecting, or it sets your mind to the kind of movie that you are watching, and I really appreciated that. Oh, and the movie is very intense. Like, the first and the last acts were very, very intense, and I found myself on the edge of my heart was racing so fast, because I knew what is going to happen. Like, they've already established some things that are going to happen if Will Smith's character gets caught, and like, because you know what is going to happen if he gets caught, it makes your heart race so much, and you're rooting for him to try and escape. And the tension on it just gets so intense. Like, the first act and the final act, they were very intense. The second act was a bit slow. Like, it was not as intense. It just like, it was, I felt like there's some stories in that second half that they could have cut out of it, that was not really necessary. So that second half just, it dragged for me. And not that I'm complaining, like, I understand it doesn't have to be full intensity all through, but I wish it had not been as, like, I wish there were not there's some storylines in that second half that I feel like they could have cut out completely, and it would not have affected the movie. So that second half for me was kind of slow. That's the best word. So that's the best way to put it. It was kind of slow. And the way the director directs this film, he uses some kind of flying wide shots. That's what I like to call it. I don't think I've heard that word before, but that was the best way to describe it, because you just see the camera flying and like zooming back and flying into the sky, and just like showing you how big the world is. And when you think about it like that, it feels like, it almost makes you feel hopeless. Like, how can this guy escape this situation? Look at how this whole place is. How is he going to escape it? So those wide shots, those flying wide shots, that's what I call them. Those flying wide shots, I think they got them with drones. Like, that's the only way to get them. Those flying wide shots just really made you feel so much panic for the character, made you feel like there was no hope for this character to escape, and just like, it was so perfect to the movie. If you don't know anything about the story and you didn't know what to expect, it should have just made you feel like this is a very hopeless situation, and you'll just be feeling more and more scared, and it made the intensity of the movie even so much better. Like, I love those flying white shots. I don't think I've seen them before, because they use them a lot in this movie. The camera will just fly out of this scene, sometimes to fly in, and it was so brilliant to see. I love seeing. I don't think I've seen something like that before, and it was very, very good. And the way you react it with like the way the characters were moving with those scenes, like, it was also very good, because the camera, they have to be controlling the camera, and they have to have positioned out the characters will move within that frame, and for the camera to be able to fly out like that and still capture all those things. So it was just very, very good to see. Like, Antoine Fuqua is a very good director, and he really did a fantastic job directing this movie. Like I said, the first and the final acts were very, very intense, and the final act reminded me of Glory. Glory is a movie that stars Denzel Washington. It's also a movie about slavery, a slave that becomes a soldier, something like that. And that was what the final act reminded me of, and it kind of took me out of the movie. And I understand why they had to put that scene, because if you don't put that scene, you're not telling the story of the character completely. But at the same time, it kind of took me out of it, because it felt like I was watching a different movie. Not that there was anything wrong with it, but I just felt like I didn't really connect. Yes, that's the word. I didn't really connect to the final act. I didn't really connect to it. So it just made it kind of iffy for me. But it was also like, I understand why it has to be there, because you have to tell the story of the character, and it has to be genuine. And that's the best way you can tell the character story. So I just understand why it was there. But for me, I didn't really connect with that final act. Overall, this movie was very intense. Like I said, it was so intense. I found myself on the edge of my seat so many times. Like I said in my intro, Will Smith fought a crocodile. He fought a crocodile in this movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but I have to say, I just have to talk about him fighting a crocodile, because I don't think I've seen anything like that before. A man fights. In fact, I'm spoiling that crocodile scene for you. I'm spoiling it for you. he fought a crocodile underwater. Like, that was very, very intense. I was like, oh my god. Like, I did not see that coming, and it was so well shot, and it was very, very well done. I loved that scene so much. Like, that was one of the scenes that stood out to me the most, and it was so, so good seeing that. And I hope Will Smith gets some recognition for this movie. Like, especially after what's happened at the Oscars. I'm glad this movie came out. They could have easily cancelled the movie because of what happened, but I'm glad they didn't, and I'm happy that this movie is out. So I really enjoyed this movie. I find myself on the set. I enjoyed this movie so much. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much because it's a slavery or a movie about freedom and slavery-ish. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but I did enjoy it, and it was a wild ride. Yes, it was a wild ride. I love the movie. I won't go as far as saying I love the movie, but I enjoyed the movie. It was very good. It was a wild ride, like I said. So have you seen Emancipation? What do you think about it? Comment below and let me know. And what are your favorite, or what other Will Smith movie have you seen that you love the most or really stick with you? Comment below and let me know. If you've stuck by till this time, please like. You don't even need to like, just subscribe. Subscribe to my channel for more contents like this. Thank you for sticking to this time. I really appreciate you. See you in the next video. Cheers.